live once again. Today is October 1st, and you tune into Nez Sez, a place where musicians can inspire each other to play more guitar. Welcome to the show, everyone. It's going to be an amazing show. My name is Dave Nesdahl. This is my co-host, Ty Price. How are you, Ty?
I'm good, Dave. Good to be with you. Happy Thursday. Always great to be on Nez Sez on Thursday evenings, and I'm like you. I'm really looking forward to tonight with this distinguished panel of guests, having a conversation about our favorite guitar players. You know, those players that have influenced us during our formative years, those players that still inspire us today, and those that we listen to and enjoy immensely. Joining us for tonight's discussion is Adam, Pete, Craig, and Dennis. Gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Howdy.
Thanks for having us.
Hey now.
Yeah, how y'all doing? I got to use the word y'all.
Yeah, where's that from? Where'd that
We'll let you.
I don't know.
We'll let you say y'all. We'll allow that.
I'm from the
Y'all.
north, but I'm going to the south, so I better start learning. So how's everybody doing?
Yeah, how is everyone?
It's a beautiful Thursday today. Actually, beautiful outside.
Yeah, great weather up here, up north.
Yeah.
Without
nice
a doubt.
day?
So shall we get into it, guys?
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
tonight, we both Ty and I both figured, let's talk about our favorite guitar players and how they inspired us, what they did, the wow factor, and why we love them so much. So and I think we might pull one or two people out of the chat if they want to do that a little later on and tell us about their favorite guitar players as well. So who shall we start?
Yeah, so those of you in the chat, if you're interested in jumping on with us and talking about your favorite players, let us know. Send us a message so we can send you a link.
Awesome.
Cool.
Hey, real quick, let's say hello to everyone in the chat real quick. Start from the beginning. Thunder Falcon was the first. Susie Cherry, David Scher, Headstock Harem, Chris Bevan, Deja Voodoo.
Great name.
Yeah, I love that name. Ty Price in there. Tom, Ben Tom is here. Ben Coombs is here. Welcome, Ben.
Ben.
Ben is our moderator.
What's up, Coombs?
He's the keeper of the chat. Mr. Hailstorm 74. Van Hagar is here. Hey, what's happening?
Hey now.
Hey now.
James Gum is here. Mike as himself is here. Hey, Mike. Papa Blue. Hugh Caldwell.
Hey, Hugh.
Bill Spruce. Thomas Santiago. Music Therapy Laz.
Hey,
What's
Thomas.
happening, Laz? And we'll say hello to more people as they come in. How
Oh,
about
now I can see that chat. I need a cool chat name. Like I see, everyone always has a cool chat name. Like
you don't think your chat name is amazing?
no, well, it's the company, so that's a default because I couldn't think of something cool. Like Fruitcake Tony's great.
Fruitcake Tony's a great name. Love it.
Forget,
Rena Pinkel's the best.
forget,
That's right. That's a great name.
forget great guitar players. Just go straight to chat names because there's one on Johnny Bean that always cracks me up. I always say it's the best chat name ever. It'll pop in my head in a second. Oh, Boner Jams.
Boner James is great. And not only is his name great, but the picture that he shows
Yeah,
is
perfect.
it's fantastic.
And obviously a movie reference. And if you don't know the movie, you're like Boner Jams, but that's spectacular.
Good stuff.
That's all I got. Sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. So all right, so let's talk about some guitar players.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
Pete.
favorite guitar players is such a such a hard thing for me in particular because God, there's so many, and then you think about all these decades that we've been playing the instrument, and throughout each of those decades, those influences may have changed, and picking one guy is pretty hard. So I'm interested in hearing how that decision fares for each of you.
Do we have to say our age?
No, absolutely not. I mean, after 25, you never have to say again.
Well, this might show it though. But to make that comment, Craig's going old school.
Yeah. Goes way back.
Late 70s, mid 70s, early 70s. Where are you right now?
76. 76.
There we go.
All right, so let's start with Craig.
Oh, boy. Yeah, 10 years old, 76. Buddy of mine in grade school turned me on to this band called Kiss. And 10 years old. And he said, this guy, Ace Frehley's pretty good. And I don't remember too much of that other than when he showed me. The first song I heard was Deuce from the live album. And that was it. I was done after that. And then I heard Shock Me from the live. No, I heard 100,000 Years. And then that's it, basically. Oh, and Black Diamond at the end when they hit all those power A chords.
Yeah.
Explosion.
Yeah.
Forget about it, man. Then the next year came out was Live 2, and then we get Detroit Rock City, and then Shock Me, and then forget about it. The guitar solo I thought was the best in the world. And then when I I bought the album. I stole money out of my father's safe to buy the damn album and a slice of pizza. I opened it up. I got a bunch of tattoos, and Ace Frehley showing was smoking a guitar. So I was like, I want to play guitar. I want to try that. So my brother was a guitar player. He was a big blues guy, big Allman Brothers fan. And I took his guitar, and when nobody was home, I had a smoke bomb that I put in between the strings of my brother's guitar. It was an old Fender Jaguar. And I nearly lit the house on fire. And I would stand in front of the mirror and try to pose like him and act like him. And, I started playing all his riffs and licks. He was the one who started me off. He's still one of my favorites, and he's still my god. And that's it. I love his licks. I know he's not the most technical, and he may be not the cleanest, but I love his vibrato. I love his phrasing. I love his solos, his leads. I love his songwriting. And, to me, without Ace, it's not Kiss.
Those were the days where you actually had to tune your guitar to the album.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because Kiss had some goofy tunings, right? A little sharp here, a little flat there. It was never really any flat. It was never played short. It was just a little off.
Yeah, it usually was the guitar player tuned his guitar into relative tuning, and everyone tuned the guitar to the guitar player.
Yeah.
Or if you had a keyboard player in the band, everyone just tuned to the keyboard player.
Yeah.
Dennis doesn't have
Dennis
audio.
can't hear you. Can you hear us?
You muted?
Are you muted?
No.
Go get out and come back in.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's very cool. It's very cool. We'll wait for Dennis to get back in real quick.
Yeah, Ace Frehley was big and important for me too. I mean, my first Kiss song was Detroit Rock City. I remember begging my mother for that Destroyer record. I mean, they were superheroes. They were. It was amazing. And Ace and I got Love Gun, and then I went to Alive 2, and that was just the best sounding band I could wrap my young head around at the time. I mean, Ace Frehley just so influential.
I got Rock and Roll Over studio album, but I was never too much into the studio albums. To me, they always sounded weak. The Alive and the Alive 2 album, which we all know is not so live. I mean, that carried the most power for me and the most impact.
Real quick, Dennis.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're fine.
we got
now.
him. Yeah.
I think
Awesome.
I have it. I think I know what happened. Whatever.
Okay.
Some of it.
All right, cool. So Craig, keep going. I'm sorry.
Where was I?
You were talking about Frehley.
Oh, Frehley, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, what can you say? But, and I like his tone, too. And when you listen to the solo in Shock Me, when he's holding that one note with all that sustain and with a little bit of delay in that go, as a 10-year-old kid, it's like, wow, how do you do that? And I want to do it, too. And I sat in my room with my brother's guitar, and I practiced until I was able to play something. Smoke on the Water wasn't my first song that I learned how to play. Yeah, I think it was Detroit Rock City actually.
Very cool.
And then a few years later, it was I think it was mid or late '79. I was living in Spring Valley, New York, where with my brother, and I met this new kid, and he knew I was a big Kiss fan because I would have the Kiss belt buckle, Kiss shirt, everything Kiss. And he goes, "Hey man, you like Ace Frehley?" I'm like, yeah, I'll never forget it. It's something I'll always remember. He goes, "Come up to my house real quick, up to the apartment. I want you to hear something. I got a guy who'll blow that guy away." I was like, "Fuck you! Nobody will blow this guy away. He's the best." You're 13, 14 years old or whatever. So he brings me upstairs, and the first song I hear is "Ice Cream Man."
Yeah.
And I heard the beginning, with Dave and the acoustic. I'm like, what's this shit? This is lame. I want to hear power, impact, and then the band cut comes in with the and then the lead comes on. I was like, holy shit, what is that? He goes, hold on, I got one more for you, and he puts on Eruption, and the same story like everybody else. That was it. I had to have
Game over.
Yeah, the game was over, and he replayed that for me 10, 15 times. He just kept playing and playing it over. Ran downstairs, brought it to my brother, and he was like, holy shit. And it's just history ever since. And I stopped playing Ace licks, and I've been learning Eddie ever since. I'm still learning.
Excellent. Very cool story. Very cool story.
Not very fun, but it was true.
No, that's what this is about. That's what we want to know.
I remember the first time that I heard Van Halen too, and it was the same. It was. I just got nostalgic listening to you describe what that impact was like for you. I mean, the first VH song I heard was "Running with the Devil," and I mean, just the everything. And I didn't understand really what I was listening to. I certainly didn't have a concept of tone. I wasn't a player yet. It was, but you could tell that it was genius. I mean, you could tell as a music fan, as a fan of rock music at the time, you knew that what was happening was really special. Mm-hmm. And man, that immediate feeling like
time. It came out at the right time.
Yeah.
What would it be like if it came out today? With all these shredders and these 10-year-old kids playing shit like that backwards. I don't know, but Eddie came out at the right time.
Yeah.
None of that would exist.
That's all right.
If that didn't come out, none of it.
You think so? You don't think somebody would have came along with something?
Not like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's a pioneer.
I mean, I think Eddie also Eddie popularized something like Merle Travis with that Travis style of finger picking. He really, that bears his name. It was something that probably people, I think I've heard him say that people in his part of the, in Kentucky were doing. He just popularized it. I mean, we've all seen, I'm sure we've seen videos of guys doing finger tapping stuff like on classical guitars. And I think I've seen a video on YouTube of this guy in the 20s on a nylon string guitar doing what Eddie was doing, in this 50, 60 years later or whatever, 50 years later.
Right.
So he just, and of course he did what he did with it and made it his own thing. It's, I don't think without him, we wouldn't have those shredders today. I mean, Eddie blew the doors wide open,
So you think we don't have Lynch? We don't have Vito Bratta? If Eddie, you don't think they would have took sides like Randy? Like, what the hell was that? And
you don't have Vito.
The blueprint, that was the blueprint, and everyone grabbed a piece and ran in a different direction. Everyone, and everyone was great, and they're all great players. But I think everyone had the blueprint of okay, here's something to start with. Go. It was a great hypothetical. What if that never came out? I mean, I think the face of music wouldn't look like it does. I think the 80s wouldn't have happened with a million great guitar players. Each guy trying to outgun the next guy. Yeah, I don't think it would have happened.
I think everyone would sound like Jimmy Page if it wasn't for Eddie.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, Eddie's boy's Clapton. He knows Clapton note for note, and when I've heard him play Clapton note for note, but he doesn't sound like Clapton.
Not at all.
No.
I mean, to be fair though, you did have other guys you had guys like who was the Mahavishnu Orchestra guy? John McLaughlin. You had other guys who were. So it's possible that it would have been different. That there probably would have been shredders, but it would have been a different thing because you had
Well,
John
we're not
McCartney.
guys like Jason Becker.
No, I don't think so. I think Jason is
Jason does it all.
He was
Did it all.
he was an amazing guitar player. He'll always be an amazing guitar player. But if it wasn't for Eddie Van Halen, Jason would not be playing guitar the way he does, or he may not even be playing guitar. Who knows?
Did Ingwe, when Ingwe first came out, which I remember quite for real, I was like, everybody watch, you Eddie heads, watch out. When Ingwe came out, did he have the impact that Eddie had?
No.
I don't think so. I think
He changed things, but he did not have the impact.
No.
And that's an offshoot of Blackmore. I mean, a
Blackmore,
complete
yeah.
offshoot of Blackmore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
But what Ingve taught us was how good technique really could be, and I mean, just flawless technique. But he makes no secret that Blackmore was his, big influence. And Mike Varney I've heard this story where Varney had a copy of Ingve playing Made in Japan, overdubbing his guitar,
really?
on top of that record. And at a really young age, and but Ingve's technique is just, Steve Vai has described it as the most gifted, technically proficient player in the world.
I love his tone. I love a person who can play with single coil guitars. I love the sound of a single coil if it's played right. And Ingwe's one of them, and Ray Vaughan and those guys.
It's different though. I mean, I'd like to hear Ingve play a Strat without all the gain that he uses. 'Cause that's hard to do.
He plays a nylon string acoustic and tears it to shreds. Kills
Yeah,
him.
he kills it. He can play anything. He plays some serious classical stuff too.
It's so effortless for him. I mean, he is a very pronounced performer, and he's doing all of that stuff while he's performing. I mean, it's really amazing.
He's got the smoothest right hand picking hand you'll ever see. Smooth.
And it's like circular. Forgive my lack of thumb, but like his picking, it's not up and down. It's like circular.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, he's sick. He was sick. Too bad his attitude sucks.
Yeah, too bad he can't walk through doorways.
He's a tall bastard.
I'm surprised. I'm talking about his head's too big.
You all know my story about Ingve. Really funny story.
Adam, you met him, right? Adam?
Of course.
Yeah.
Did he ask you to carry 76 amps for him?
No.
Don't worry, half of them are empty anyway.
What was that? That G-Force, that what was it? Vi, him, Nuno.
Oh, that was
Zach Wild.
Generation Axe.
Generation Axe. I cannot believe. I mean, I don't mean to jump on the guy, but I can't believe that. He put that many cabinets on the stage when you're sharing it with, guys that, don't do that.
Well, Vi was the
showed
boss.
empty.
Vi was the boss, and Vi was okay with it. So.
Well, that's his
okay.
thing. That's his shtick, right? So I guess they got to give it to him.
Yeah.
But still.
Jewelry. Clang, clang, clang with the jewelry.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He's pretty amazing guitar player.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go to Adam real quick and talk about his favorite guitar players and what inspired him about it.
For a couple days after we talked about scheduling and coming on, and the topic is your favorite guitar player, and I was like, well, I can't pick one guitar player. And then I started looking back on the evolution of my thought process of this. And I'm sure, like all of you guys, you go through streaks. You'll go through an Ingve phase. You'll go through an Eddie thing, a Stevie Ray thing, a Hendrix. I've had a phase for all of them, a Brian May phase. You have to kind of knock Eddie and Hendrix just off the list, just by default, just because they're going to live here no matter what. For me. And then everyone kind of shuffles in behind them and rotates. I go through a Jimmy Page phase, and maybe not so much as a player, maybe as a writer, and a producer, and the way the guitars were recorded and the way the albums sounded, which was amazing to me. I'll go through a Nuno phase. I'll go through a Blackmore phase. My first concert was Rainbow with Blackmore, and I'm watching this, and I think I was like 12 or 13, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I couldn't believe being in a venue with the people and the sound and looking at it and hearing it. And I'm just watching this show completely floored, going, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I have to understand this. And then at the end, to cap it off, Blackmore, he jams the headstock through the cabinet, smashes the guitar into a million pieces, and then throws it in the crowd, like sharp, broken off pieces of guitar. 100 people jump on the pile. It was insanity. And I walked out of there going, wow, what have I been missing? That was one of my defining guitar moments. And I had a Blackmore phase. I had a Pete Townsend phase. But I lived as a teenager in high school in the 80s, and it was Shredder's delight, of course, with EVH leading the way. And then everyone right up there in my Mount Rushmore of guys of the era, it was Eddie, Lynch, DeMartini is probably like always right at that bar,
right,
for me. And same era, same building. A couple years later, Vivian Campbell with Dio. Again, that 84 special from the Spectrum, being there as a kid, watching that. And I think he was like 21 at the time. And I'm like, he's not that much older than us, like me and my friends. And he just destroyed it. So I always had the Shredder, Guitar Hero ability thing going. And that's where I kind of live with it. My phone. Right on time.
We just got dinged.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'll mute that. There, hence the ringtone.
Yeah.
My mother yet. So I've drifted in and out of guys, and I'll get hot on a guy still today. I'll go on a Stevie Ray phase and dig back in and live on that stuff. a good friend of mine in California just sent me this great Hendrix footage that I'd never seen before. And you should all check it out. It was Hendrix in Maui. And it was an outdoor stage, a little stage, and a couple hundred hippies just like grooving out in the sun. And it's the best HD footage of Hendrix you'll see. It starts out with the wide shot, then you see the cameraman walk up on stage, kind of get right over his shoulder like you'd never seen before. And the footage is spectacular. So to answer the original question, my favorite guitar player, it's not a sport to me. It's not a contest. It's not, and it's not just ability. It has to sound good. It has to feel good. And then I know it's cliche and secondary to, like the high level playing. It has to trigger an emotion in you. I have to hear a song that it's not just like, wow, that guy's great. Okay. The songs, you see a lot of those bands with, great shredders didn't have, the big hit songs. And then you got to have the songs, you got to have the riffs. And, if it really triggers an emotion and connects with you, that's what's good. And I see everybody online, like when I go on, I see people debating, this guy's better than this guy and that guy's better. I'm like, how do you do the math of this? If you like it and you connect with it, that's the best. Mm-hmm. But my guys are pretty much going to be the same list of all you guys. I got in the car today with Mark, who works here, who was driving me to pick up my car, and he puts on Paul Gilbert, early Mr. Big. And I haven't thought of Paul Gilbert in ages. And it was just, we were both like 16 banging our heads in the car, like idiots. And I was like, this is so good. Now I'm like, all right, time for some Paul Gilbert.
Mm-hmm. So listen to Racer X.
Yeah, I mean that's Guitar Olympics. That's technical ability. This and that. He's a player. Some guys, for me, some guys have such good technique and they play so good, and I think they might not. I don't know the right word. I'm not going to say not have emotion in it, but some guys.
Mechanical.
Yeah, some guys are very good mechanical, and that's respectable.
Yeah,
Craig,
technician.
Craig, when you said there's 10-year-old kids on the internet playing, Vi and Eddie licks, okay, that's the technical practice. Look how hard I practice. And of course, it's great. That's awesome. But some guys just play with a different set of emotion. I think Stevie Ray Vaughan did. I think Eddie did. I think Hendrix did. The emotion, and it's just there. And I'm pretty lucky to get to see a lot of behind the scenes of these guys playing. And when you see a guy play like that in a little warm-up room with nobody watching, and it's coming from a different place, to me, that's special. That's a cool thing.
Adam, do you like guitar players? Like we all know what my number one is, but my number two guy is Dickie Betts.
Oh,
He does that emotion thing for me. You guys familiar with Dickie?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know you are, Dave. I know you are.
I'm just
But
going to
that-
keep my mouth shut and play with the buttons.
Yeah, but Dickie Betts is my number two, and he's right up there with Eddie to me. And I know I play a lot of Allman Brothers, believe it or not. I go through my phases, like Adam said. I can go through an Allman Brother phase, and I can listen to the entire Phil Maurice album from front to back. And I was just curious, Adam, what do you think about Dickie? And have you ever met him?
I actually have not met Dickie Betts, but I do love his playing, and I do like that whole school of play. I love that. I'll go down that path, jam band. And it's not just the play. What great tones, very organic tones. And even like if you listen back to like early Skynyrd stuff, that a lot of those tones, it was like, a decent guitar and like a cheap PV amp in the studio. And you're going, that sounds spectacular. How did that sound so good? It's the guy, it's the ability, it's the song. But yeah, I swim in that pool too. I like that.
Yeah, it's a great pool.
If you're stuck in one thing or one guy you're missing the boat. You're totally missing the boat of
Agreed.
What's out there and to experiment. If I told you guys half the stuff I listen to in phases, it doesn't make sense. And I would always say to people when we had tapes and CDs and records, if you went through my record collection as a teenager or in my 20s, you would think I was a shoplifter because nothing went together. It was like a little bit of everything. I guess it was whatever was closest to the door. It just was all over the place. I dig music, and I dig people who write good music and play and give a shit and put an effort into something and try to say something other than I'm better than you. Look how good I am. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more to it.
Yep. I can go from King Diamond to Marshall Tucker to Frank Sinatra all in one day. No problem. That's how versatile I like. How much I like. Yeah, seriously. I grew up with Frank Sinatra, my father.
I love Frank. Who doesn't love Frank?
Too. Yeah.
Love Frank, man.
And Dean. Love for Dean Martin too.
Oh yeah.
The presets on the radio in my car for the satellite stations are so all over the place when you have like, the hair metal channel, the reggae channel, the Beatles channel, Coffee House.
So glad you brought the Beatles up.
And,
Howard 100.
Number one slot. And I just bop right through like 12 presets. And, it depends, I guess it's like food. It's like, what are you in the mood for?
Yeah, of course.
When I get off tonight, when I'm done here, I'm going to get in the car and drive to New York. Who knows what I'll end up with? And I do go on reggae kicks. I love.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm telling you. And you're not going to get some shredding guitar out of it. There's great stuff in there. It just has to find you, and you either connect with it or you don't connect with it.
Right.
I'll give you one more that outside of the box for me. Probably one of my favorite bands, and I really like next to nothing out of the 90s. I like a handful of things. I love Counting Crows. The first 4 Counting Crows records, especially the first 2. And as a guitar player, even if you don't like the music, the guitar tones on those records are monstrous, spectacular.
That's awesome.
That's cool. That is out of the box. Yeah, that gives me something to go back and listen to tomorrow.
Good. It's very vintagey sound. The second record, I think, really they really started branching out, and you hear, Leslie's, and it's very clear what this is or that is, and it's just a lot of great vintage gear being recorded organically and just cleanly.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
pretty amazing.
That's my spiel.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. Awesome stuff. Pete, how about you?
Well, I'm happy. That was a good list from Adam because that restored my faith in his,
Here we go.
A shitty preference in hockey teams.
Okay.
No, look,
How about the
I'm
cup?
about to put you in the penalty box.
Come on, a 2-minute minor for me. That's it, right? So, it's cool. I was, even hearing you guys, and I often think about this topic, and it's not as much as it's just I find it fascinating how you get to certain places. So I'll give you a little story. We all find it somewhere. So I have 2 older sisters. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm 47 years old. So put that in perspective. I'm born in 73. My oldest sister is 12 years older than me. She was married at 19. I was 6. I was the pillow boy at a wedding. So she left, and there was this box of albums. I had a little record player, and she had a box of albums. So out of my 2 sisters, my oldest one was the rocker, and my middle one was more the R&B, and she got all swooped up in the late 70s disco thing, whatever it may be. And I remember going through this little box, and she had a ton of AC/DC albums. And in the box, I got For Those About to Rock. There was something about the Gold album, the friggin' Canon, right? She didn't have Back in Black, shockingly, but she had a lot of the Bond stuff. Given her age, that would make sense. But I just remember the For Those About to Rock album. I took the record out, and I put it on the record player, and I just dropped the needle. And that album starts off with For Those About to Rock. It's like the ultimate ending of a show song. That's not something you put in the beginning. Now, I always thought that was a strange placement on that album. Like, how do you not end the album with that track that started the album, side 1? And just the sound, right? So, Malcolm, Angus, these guys were, in my opinion, they knew what to do with a Marshall Plexi, right? And then you have 2 guys that are so organic together, and opened up the album, and I never saw shows, right? I started with the music. So I fell in love with that album. Then I started listening to a few more things. And, just the sheer sound of it, it was monstrous. And like in my head, I never heard guitar like that ever. It was just insane. And I didn't know, how they were getting that sound. Like I had no concept that it was, I knew there were 2 guitar players, but I didn't know what they did. Like I didn't know how they mixed stuff, but it sounded huge to me. It just the way Angus plays. It sounds like he's trying to choke the guitar to death, like he's trying to kill it. It's an attack. It's still to this day that blows my head off. And then early in the 80s is when MTV was coming around, and later at night you would catch the old shows, And I think it was the Flicker the Switch tour, live in Detroit, right? This was some AC/DC concert that someone filled, and they broadcasted it. And to see a guy move like that for that long and execute, think about it. I don't know if you guys, no one touched AC/DC yet, but I just never saw a guitar player move like that and just just losing his friggin' mind. Like it was weird. I was young. I was looking at that like, holy man, like it was like the ultimate feeling. First out of the gate, that's where I started.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously more early, obviously Brian Johnson, everything I found with the second guy and worked backwards. Right. So, at AC/DC, I started hearing Brian stuff first, then I had to go back. Right. And, anything that was like, out at that time or whatever. And, AC/DC, Angus Young, he was monstrous to me. It started with Angus with me. And so, again, in the family, my cousin Dominic is about 3 years older than me. He was the Zeppelin guy that had a cassette. What is that?
Not me.
Not me.
Don't know what it is.
Got to be Dave.
It's got to be Dave.
It's me.
What are you getting, a massage?
No, that's just Desiree asking me if I'm okay because I left the screen for a second.
Yeah, never, you know what? Never mind. We don't want to know.
She's one of the moderators in the chat actually. Ben Coombs and Desiree are both the moderators tonight. So thanks to both of them.
Terry 3Gs is here as well.
Oh, then Terry 3Gs is also a moderator here. So thanks to the three of you.
Yes, thank you.
Music Therapy Laz, thank you so much for the super sticker. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, Laz.
So carry on, Pete. I'm sorry.
No.
Dominic was he was into Page.
So he was into Page, and he was one of those guys that had like Zeppelin live everywhere on cassette. Like concerts from all over, and he would just, he'd be like, "You got to hear this. You got to hear this," and then boom, then I went to Zeppelin, and I heard all the live stuff before I even heard album stuff. And Page grabbed me. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the song remains the same. Again, when you got to see it, the optics of it, not just hearing the music, it's the optics, right? To see what that was all about. And obviously, the song remains the same. 73 at the Garden, that show and the way they improvised and all the jams and everything else. And again, like Page is like, I'm like, how long is this guitar strap? Like who plays guitar like that? To be kind of, I guess that's, to Craig's point, that was kind of like, Ace was from that school, right? You know what I mean? The Les Paul, was
strung down really low.
Yeah, strung down really low. And, but again, I just watching that, just, the whole band really did it for me, kind of like AC/DC where, big sound, Bonzo on the drums, just John Paul Jones can walk it like, the best of them, just, it was awesome to me.
Sure.
But I definitely got into Page. And then my current drummer, believe it or not, I know since Little League. All right. And then
that was last week, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that was, let's call it junior high too. And he had two older brothers and they would jam and Rush down his throat. So from Page, now I found Lifeson. Again, I'm finding them moving pictures and having to go backwards, right? Because this is, it's not like you're growing up. I wasn't in the era of, the first album, Caress of Steel, 2112, Hemispheres. That was all, late 70s, maybe hitting the early 80s at that point. Not even, Rush, then that band, right? So, Lifeson, I don't know, to be able to stand out in between those two monsters, that's what made Lifeson insane, in my opinion. Right? At that era, you basically had almost the undisputed best rock bass player, right? In Geddy Lee. He was kind of starting to edge out Chris Squire a little bit. He was getting his recognition. And obviously Neil, right? So just to be able to stand out and be in that band as a guitar player and the stuff, the stuff he did, just all his compositions, soul, all of it. I mean, I turned into the biggest Rush head you would ever see ever. I mean, and that was at an early age.
I could tell by your room.
Yeah, what this? Yeah,
Yeah.
no. See, it's funny the evolution, right? So I still love all this stuff to this day, and all due respect to Eddie Van Halen, kind of like Adam said, right? Here's Eddie. He's always there, right? So he's the sun, and when we're talking about everyone else, they're like, planets that rotate around.
That's a great analogy right there. We're
know,
done. Thank you. Good night.
Yeah,
That was perfect.
he's the sun, and then whatever. Everyone in our galaxy here feeds off it. I mean, it's just Then again, MTV, the Van Halen video started coming out. So 84,
I have, yeah.
Yeah, Panama, Eddie hanging from from that cord, just dragging everything, hot for
Live from
teacher.
Oakland.
Yeah.
But again, Craig, I didn't see like the live from Oakland stuff till like Headbangers Ball came out,
After.
and it was on at 11 o'clock at night on MTV. Right, that's when you could see that. It's not like I had access to that VHS or whatever it was. So
Right.
I thought Van Halen to be rocking, but believe it or not, at first I kind of thought it was like I knew they cranked, but like the videos, all of it was goofy. It was just awesome stuff, right? And obviously I didn't come up in the Frankie era, so the Stripe guitar was basically the 5150 at that point, right, on that album. And so that's when VHS, right when Sammy came into the band, they had Betamax, now we're getting the VHS. You could go buy concerts, right?
Yeah.
So a friend of mine had Live Without a Net. And again, the visual, I mean, that was like, someone took a bat, hit me over the head. I forgot everything I knew for the past 6 years of my life. And just, but again, I hate to say it. It started with the tail end of Dave, because that's when I started seeing it on MTV, right? Think about it. 84, I'm 11, right? It's kind of sick to think about it that way, but that's where the exposure started happening. So I caught the last minute of that, but the first live footage I saw was Live Without a Net. When Sammy joined the group, and now that journey backwards was just head scratching. We
Pete,
can say
what was your first Van Halen concert, Pete?
OU812.
At the Coliseum?
Yeah, I
was
just
there.
I was there.
I just missed 5150 because that was 86, and whatever. My mother couldn't take me to a concert or something. I was in seventh grade, whatever, and but soon after that live video came out, right? OU812 came out. What was that? 88, right?
Yep.
So yeah, that was my first concert.
What'd you think of it?
It was great. They opened up with AFU.
Yep.
Yeah, they kicked ass. I mean, they only played a couple of Dave songs.
One of the coolest things about that concert is that Eddie took out a 58 Strat to play Finish What You Started on it.
You're right.
Only time he took a vintage guitar out with him.
Holy cow, I don't remember that. It must have been really high. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's cool.
And yeah, I mean, listen, then everyone in between, right? Then, I mean, do we want to talk about the tree, right? Where you branch left, branch right? Obviously, when I got to high school, and I definitely ran into a couple of, guys that showed me metal, and I fell in love with the Mustaines of the world, Priest. I mean, God rest his soul, Dimebag. I mean, you want to talk about a metal pioneer? I mean, that guy was flat out insane, right? I mean,
were you there, Pete, at the last time they played the Coliseum?
Pantera?
Yeah. Were you there for that?
Was it the Reinventing the Steel tour? Was it?
I
don't
believe
remember.
So. It's a little foggy. I was pretty wasted.
Those were the wasted years, right?
Yeah.
Wasted
I
years.
know I was
Yeah.
there, though.
How about the Maiden guys? Speaking of wasted years.
Yeah, man.
I saw the ticket stuff, so I know I was there.
Absolutely. Adrian Smith. Oh my God. Dave Murray.
Oh my God.
Yeah, power.
Some of the best dueling guitar players ever.
It was huge.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah.
Love Dave Murray, man.
I was
And then-
always
Love it.
into the way Queensryche took what Maiden did and
That
kind
was
of
my
made
thing.
made it
made
cleaner
it their thing.
and
The
made it
harmony,
cleaner.
those
Yeah.
harmony guitars in Queensryche was, and I'm not really a prog guy at all. But those, that
Chris DeGamo was a god.
Garmo.
I,
Oh my
I
God.
loved it. I loved it, and I loved the Rage album, and I loved the Mindcrime record, of course. But the guitar stuff on the Warning and all that harmony stuff just really spoke to
Yeah.
me because I was a
But the
huge
drums,
Lizzie
too.
fan, and I loved harmony guitars. So
Yeah.
And then
So-
Not to mention one of the greatest. Not to mention one of the greatest heavy metal singers of all time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Real singer.
Real quick, let's switch gears and go with Dennis because I have a feeling Dennis is going to come out with some different stuff.
Let's hear
Okay.
it.
For me, it was like a sort of a confluence of of a bunch of different things at once. I mean, really, the Beatles are the reason why I play guitar. It was my buddy George Monahan, who was a big Beatle freak in 6th grade, and he turned me on to the Beatles, and that was it. I was done. So by March or April of '81, I'm just in 7th grade now, and I was hooked on the Beatles, and that got me. There was a beat up 2-string guitar in the back of my closet. I don't even know whose it was. But the first melody I ever picked out across a single string was "Here Comes the Sun," and I couldn't figure out if I was going to be lefty or righty. But I ended up going righty. But so it was the Beatles, and at the same time as the Beatles, MTV is out now. Shortly thereafter, and the early REO Speedwagon videos. You've got Gary Richrath, playing whether it's "Keep on Running." Is that this "Keep on
Keep
Running"?
on rolling.
rolling.
Keep on rolling.
Keep on rolling. Yeah, whatever. Running, rolling. And I can remember him like that Les Paul slung super low and seemed to be bending the high E string all the way up to the low E string. And he just was so cool looking. So from a visual standpoint, that Les Paul slung low and the way he shook the notes, and I thought, oh, that's great. So there was that. And then the Beatles were always, the Beatles are everything. They form the foundation of everything I do. But the Guitar Hero wise, it was, and more on them in a little bit because, them as players was highly influential on me. And at the same time as Gary Richrath, the Rock and Roll Moves and all that stuff, the first couple of albums that I got were given to me by my stepmother. And one of them was Chester and Lester, an album that Chet Atkins and Les Paul released in '76. They released 2 records. The first one, Chester and Lester, I still have it. It's in storage. I mean, that blew my mind just to hear, to hear Chet Atkins doing that thumb thing and the melodies and the way they interacted. That album is brilliant. You can hear them talking. It was all done live. I think everything was done live, save one song, 1 or 2 tunes. There were some overdubs. It's all standards, It was brilliant. It was. So I have that going on. Beatles, Gary Richrath, and then I've got the other record my stepmom gave me was it was an Allman Brothers record called Beginnings. It was 2 albums. It was the first 2 records. Allman Brothers Band and Idlewild South put together. So at 14 years old to hear, It's Not My Cross to Bear and Black Hearted Woman and, all the songs off those records, and those guitar tones.
Amazing.
Yeah, and the singer,
Amazing.
Greg Allman just was like, I couldn't imagine singing that way,
Best blues white singer of all time.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was that stuff was huge on me. And then soon thereafter, I mean, Eddie Van Halen. I don't play like him. I don't do that thing, but his aggression, his attack,
ferocious, just ferocious.
And his swing. A lot of people don't realize how much Van Halen swung. The same way that people don't even realize too, like the Beatles, they swung.
Yeah,
you
they
listen
did.
to old live footage of them, even the the stuff from Shea Stadium, but before that, to come around to that, probably a musical Bible for me was the Beatles live at the Star Club in Hamburg, Germany, and It was recorded by one of the other acts, King Size Taylor, I believe his name was, just like one microphone. And I listened to that. It was a double album. I listened to it constantly just to pick out whatever people were saying in the background, what the Beatles were saying in between songs, the guitar sounds, the intensity. They were all hopped up on speed, and I don't think I've ever heard anybody play Roll Over Beethoven faster than the Beatles did it in Hamburg. I mean, they were flying.
And too bad you couldn't hear them live because the screams are insane, right?
Yeah, that was it came later on, right? So, but yeah, back then you could hear them. I mean, the Star Club was a new venue, whatever. Anyway, so that was a huge influence on me. Not only it was tones, it was the attack and the parts. I quickly became very interested in arranging. I like ensemble playing, and Chet Atkins to me is really an ensemble player, even though he does a lot of solo stuff. That getting his fingers to play different bits of songs. So so it was all that, and then like I got more into in the 80s. I got more into the metal thing. So it's Rat. I think the second concert I ever went to was Rat at the Nassau Coliseum, and Bon Jovi was opening up.
Saw that concert. I was there. Yep.
Saw that tour. That was the Invasion tour.
It was. I got to tell you though, Rat sounded like shit. Bon Jovi sounded incredible. They were unbelievable. Their sound. They were the opening band. Their sound was better than Rat's sound. They sang like they had at least 4-part harmony going at one point in the show. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And Rat came out, and somebody seemed to have a flanger stuck on that I guess was broken, and just one of the guitar players had a flanger on the entire show. And their sound was really muddy. And I distinctly remember getting hit in the back of the head with something. Something came from behind me.
That's
and I got smacked in the back of the head.
Might have been a rat.
Yeah,
Might have been a rat.
probably because you didn't like Rat. Someone was trying to knock some sense into you.
Right. So you get that, so then I got into the metal thing. So then it was Iron Maiden. Like you guys mentioned, it was Iron Maiden. Judas Priest, still to this day. The album Screaming for Vengeance is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Just the songs, the theatricalness of it, Rob Halford, that vocal, and the twin guitar thing and the guitar tones. If I hear You Got Another Thing Coming on the radio and I'm in my car, I remember when going to college at Nassau Community College, and You Got Another Thing Coming came on while I was driving through the parking lot looking for a spot. The next thing I know, I'm doing like 60 in the parking lot. I was like, oh, okay, then easy, take, because jump, and they kind of had a swing to them too, So all these guys that, they always had some kind of like a lilt to them. Like I love AC/DC, but they came a little later on for me, So I think that combination of players early on were the things that were the players and the music that inspired me, Then later on, because I did the 80s thing through the metal thing through the 80s for a bit, and I remember getting bored. I just being in a guitar store. It used to be called Focus 2, right? Mm-hmm. Up here in New York. Now it's the Music Emporium. And I remember sitting in there one day, and I'm working on some kind of metal-y thing. I don't know. And I looked around, and I noticed everybody was doing the same thing I was doing, and I was bored already. And I was like, I'm done with this. And at that time, on the radio, Sunshine of Your Love happened to be playing. And that guitar solo started, and I went, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. And that was it. Then I became a Clapton head, then I became a blues head, and then that led me into B.B. King and all, the Kings, all the blues guys, and that forever changed my...
Did you dig Johnny Winter?
I like
Captain Live album?
Yeah, I got into Johnny Winter much later, but it was through a buddy of mine, Tommy Burns, is Billy Joel's guitar player. Tommy, because I'd asked Tommy, I was like, Tommy, who did you listen to growing up? And he mentioned Johnny Winter, and so I bought what's it called? Rock Me? I can't remember the name of the record. I have it. It's a studio album. It's great. But I didn't.
Have you heard the Capture Live album?
No, I have not.
Highly recommended.
Okay.
Probably the most terrifying slide you'll ever hear in Highway 61.
Yeah,
14 minutes long.
Yeah, that neck pickup tone on that Firebird is just money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh my God!
is
Right?
I got
incredible.
I saw him at Tramps in New York City a number of years ago, and he was already seriously hurting. Probably had to be helped. I think he had to be helped onto the stage.
He's probably using the laser guitar at that point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was cool. But I think so. Yeah, they're the blues guys. I always tended to gravitate towards the ones that were that played less and or were kind of grungy sounding, like the Lightning Hopkins or John Lee Hooker, and ones who weren't technicians, but it just had they just oozed vibe.
Yeah.
But of course, then I discovered Danny Gatton sometime in the '90s. I got to see him at Tramps not long before he killed himself, and that was my. I remember the guitar player issue that he, the greatest unknown guitarist. He looked like he had the Phantom of the Opera mask on, and I can still remember that cover, and I probably somewhere I still have that old, that floppy 45.
Sure.
They used to give you.
Yeah, from Guitar Player magazine.
Yeah, that I forgot what the name of the Pick and Round or something like little, and it was like a combination of all of his styles in one piece of music, and I started learning that right away, and that really got me into country, which would flash forward to
Roy Clark.
What's that?
Roy Clark.
Roy Clark.
That kind of stuff.
Odd Couple.
Oh.
You know, the Odd Couple.
Yes, and they were both
beyond
floored.
that.
They were both floored, and Felix, man,
Yeah.
boy, was Roy
Banjo, the
Clark good.
fiddle. Oh my God.
Also, you got to to me too. Like Chet Atkins I was big
Yeah.
Chet Atkins. Like I learned how to finger pick that thumb thing within a year of, at least it had to be a year, if not 2 years after I started playing. I've been using my thumb forever, and I always loved fingerstyle guitar. So between Chet and Jerry Reed,
Oh, forget it.
Jerry Reed, good Lord.
Yeah.
Hee Haw was a ritual down here in the South. I mean, Roy Clark, Bucko, and Jerry Reed. I mean, that's sacred ground here.
Yeah, it's unbelievable stuff. And then so you do the country thing. I can go on with the guys that are around today. The Brent Masons. I just try to pick, but I tended to go back to like Roy Nichols, the guy who played with Merle back in the day, because that's what the modern players would tell me. Oh, well, go check out these guys. Would tell us, go listen to these guys.
Brad Paisley's got that kind of old style. I mean, he can play all that stuff.
A lot of those guys. I mean, Brent Mason, Johnny Hyland. Johnny Hyland is, and not only is he one of the best guitar players on the planet, he is the sweetest guy. Oh my God, he is just a sweetheart, and he's humble, and he's just got the whole thing. That guy should be much more popular than he is.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart of a dude for sure. He really seems like one, But I think if you had to pick one today for me, this could go back nearly probably 10 years. It's a New York City guitar player named Jim Campolongo. He's originally from San Francisco, and a bass player buddy of mine, told me about him. Probably 10 years ago, and I can remember. He's like, "Yeah, man, he plays every Monday night down at the living room on the Lower East Side." He's like, "Let's go one night." So we went, and it was a trio, and he's just this wacky. Plays a telly straight into a Princeton, turned all the way up. Always uses reverb, and he's just this combination of twangy, like surf country jazz thing. He had an upright bass player and a drummer. And it just blew my mind. I went up and I bought the album that was his latest at the time, called Heaven is Creepy. And I'm thinking it was 10 years ago. Maybe it was 8. I don't know. And the next week, I went back the next week, and I was like, I went up to Jim. I said, "Dude, do you have anything else?" He's like, "Bye. Well, I've got everything here." I was like, "I'll take it all." I bought every other record. And he was so surprised. He's like, "Give me your address. I've got some other things that are out of print. I'll send them to you." I was like, "Yep, here you go." And
That's
he
awesome.
was a good guy. His personality is comes out, the way he is as a human being when you speak to him is how he plays guitar and approaches music.
Right.
He's an odd bird, but I love him. I love him. Space for days. He's brilliant. You know.
Well, if you like the country style music, then you may have liked guys like Huey Thomason,
I don't know
Billy
who that is.
Jones from the Outlaws. Billy Jones, he committed suicide.
I never really listened to the Outlaws. I mean, I know a couple
Holy
of their
good
tunes.
Christ! Well, you know Green Grass. Everybody
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
That's their stairway to heaven. But
Right.
if you dig deeper, you'll hear the guitar playing's phenomenal. The
Well,
chicken
you know what?
picking that's going on.
Dude, you brought it when you mentioned Dickie Betts, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it.
If you don't own, I mean, the Allman Brothers were big, you know, obviously, because like I said, those first 2 records that I had as a little kid, I got into them more a little bit later on, and then I got kind of burnt on them for a while, quite frankly. But this, if you don't have this, Craig, you need to go buy it.
I'm listening.
I mean,
Uh,
this was a solo album that came out in 1974. Richard Betts. It's called Highway Call. Okay,
how come I don't have that album?
dude, go get it.
I thought I had all this shit.
It is amazing.
Who's on it?
It's got Chuck Leavell on it, and
God,
man.
it's got a
Chuck
couple of.
Leavell.
I think it's who else does it have on it? It's got Vassar Clements is playing fiddle.
Tola wasn't around then, right?
Isn't that Dickie's first solo record?
I think so.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's a pretty badass record. Yeah.
It's a
Why the hell
great
don't I have
record. You know, and just knowing that we were going to be doing this tonight, I was thinking about like going through in my mind like the stuff that influenced me, and I remember like I don't know how long I've owned this record for because I actually have it on LP. This is the CD, and listening to it and loving every moment of it. And I've probably always loved country music and never really realized how much I dug it because my mom liked it a lot. So I can remember her, like she took guitar lessons as a kid, knows how to play like guitar boogie. So I think that kind of sound was always in the back of my mind somewhere, you know, floating around my universe, so to speak. But dude,
so there's good tunes on there, man.
oh, great stuff.
Cool.
Like like stuff like High Falls.
I don't know that. Like, this is the only Dickie Betts solo record I have, and I know.
Well, High Falls is a
Oh my God,
fantastic song, just
Yeah.
fantastic. But
What a great
you know,
album.
almost everything Dickie Betts has ever written or played on is just top notch. But
Cheers to
let's
that.
let's keep this moving. Ty, how about you?
I'm kind of like Adam. Very similar to Adam. The way I would answer the question in that I can identify all these milestones is the wrong word, but there's a linear progression for me in terms of how my guys actually became my guys, you know, along the way. And we've mentioned a lot of them. Ace Frehley, Angus Young for me. Learning AC/DC solos really taught me, you know, really smart things to do. I mean, the way in which he uses the major minor pentatonic. I mean, Angus Young. I mean, he does it all the time, and he does it so tastefully. The way Dickie Betts uses the major scale. The thing for me the thing I look for in a player is melody. It's always about melody for me, and I was in a household that was always playing music, so lots of different types of music. There was rock music. My mother was a huge Beatles fan. She loved Elvis. She loved Chuck Berry, Richard, the Rolling Stones. All of that is, you know, I listen to those records, and it takes me back to when I'm 4, 5, 6 years old. And she starts me on my own pathway with Kiss. And but in turn, and I wanted to play guitar, and I wanted to play guitar like Ace and Angus. And you're listening to I remember listening to Van Halen, and I'll be quite honest, I'm listening to that, and yes, it made me want to play guitar, but it was unobtainable to my head. I was like, I will never be able to play like that ever. I mean, that's just such a different thing. And as I went through the 80s, all those players that are probably on Adam's client roster, they were all my favorite guys. I mean, Warren just set me on fire in terms of the way he put things together. Even Richie Sambora, the way he was able to write all these melodic solos they're pop songs, and it had this incredible. They all had credible guitar solos that you could sing. Neil Sean, the same way, and I was a huge Thin Lizzy fan for whatever reason. I loved Thin Lizzy. I loved Gary Moore. My mother had some Lizzy records, and it was huge. And I heard that Lizzy got this new guitar player on the Thunder and Lightning record, and I heard John Sykes play for the first time, and I heard that solo in Cold Sweat. And next to Van Halen, that was the greatest guitar solo I had ever heard in my life. And I had heard Hendrix, but I was so young I couldn't understand Hendrix. It would be a long time before I could get my head around Hendrix. Yeah. But I'm listening to Sykes, and I'm just thinking, my God. And these are great songs, right? That Thunder and Lightning record was a big record for me. And all I knew was his name. And then I saw some Whitesnake footage from Rio in '85. Had to have been on MTV late at night one night, and it was Crying in the Rain. And there's Sykes wearing it out. And now I had a face with this sound, and I'm watching this man do what he's doing. The Slide It In record is out. He did most of those overdubs on that record. And then the '87 record came out, and it just changed my world. I had never heard a guitar tone like that. I had never heard something that wide before. Think about where we were and what we were listening to at the time. And then there you've got that '87 record and the way in which Keith Olsen put that tone together. And my understanding is that Bob Rock is actually responsible for the mic placement on recording that, and Bob wasn't even part of the sessions. But there's this slight detuned effect on that we're hearing very early. There's this chorusing that's there, and this monstrous perfect playing. But it was more than just hard rock guitar playing for me. I thought it was pretty sophisticated. When I was sitting down to really learn things, I'm listening to the best vibrato I'd ever heard. I'm listening to a rock player play minor 9 arpeggios, play 13 chords, use triads to build songs together, a lot like Van Halen does, but just differently, right? So, and then seeing him with a Les Paul, seeing that black Les Paul, it was just automatic for me. It was like, all right, I want that guitar tone, and I want to be able to kind of have that vibrato, that solo, that vibrato and the note choice in those arpeggios in Is This Love? Perfect. And it's so melodic with the little flurry at the end. It's just well done. And then yes.
I gotta. You mentioned the Slide It In record. I remember hearing that record. A buddy of mine had it on cassette, and he pointed out at the time, he's like, Dennis, it's like they recorded this so hot to the cassette that it went down so hot that it sounded like it was distorting, even like it was so saturated. It jumped. It had such a sound with so much. It was so in your face. And I can remember that song. It made me laugh. Just the name "Slide It In."
I know. The album cover's even better than the name, right?
Oh,
and
that's a straight line, right? There's no beating around the bush.
Hey guys, can I can't hang too much longer because I got to drive. Yeah. Can I interject for 1 minute?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
And my pal just stopped by, so I took my in-ears out and turned on the speaker. Yeah. He also knows guitar. And you guys all know him, I think. Dude, come on in. Look who's here. Wait till you see who showed up. Scott Smith.
Scott Smith.
Hey!
Hey, Scott.
How are you guys?
How are you?
Great.
All right, so
You want the
Ty,
chair?
I'm very sorry, but since Scott
No,
is
it's
here
fine. Yeah,
and they're not here for very long, Scott,
good.
favorite guitar player and why?
You don't have to pick one.
Oh, it's
They tried to pin me to that. I'm like, I can't pick one.
Who started you to play? Who started you to play?
Wait,
definitely
who is the most inspired? Who inspired you the most?
clearly EVH,
Of course.
without a doubt. Yep. Yeah, I mean, just it spoke to me. You know, it hit me at the time when I was just starting to play. You know, VH1 came out, and it was like, oh man, this is awesome. My dad begged me to play guitar. And it was years earlier, I was taking lessons and all that stuff. And it was like, I just didn't really like it because I was playing stuff like Claire de Lune and just stuff that I couldn't relate to. Mm-hmm. And then I heard VH and it was like, that just was like, it flipped the switch.
For anyone watching, or I know everyone here knows who Scott is, or for whoever doesn't know who Scott is, obviously Scott and I are how many years? I don't even know how many years.
30 years.
Pushing 30. That's embarrassing. Scott is, before anyone was doing it, and before anyone at all was even doing it good, Scott was building the replica EVH guitars for himself, just for himself. And I remember the first time I went to his house and I saw, just slews of guitars and every one you could think of, but not a version of it, like perfection of it. Before anyone was doing it good, down to the scratch. He would take pictures of the guitars and have them blown up to life size. And I saw how he worked, and he would sit and work. Oh, no computers, no nothing. And I remember early on, pre-internet, and one day I was with Eddie and I showed him a picture of your guitars, like all the red guitar. People are always putting shit in front of him. He's like, bah, bah, bah. And he did one of these. He's like, what the hell? Fast forward a bunch of years, and some of the guitars that we ended up doing for him and getting to him, Scott did. And the guitars are just spectacular.
I agree. I actually learned from Scott that he was my blueprint, and I'll never forgive you, Scott.
I can't do that.
Addicting, right?
I can't do it. I just have him do them for me. He did a 5150 for me. It's funny. One of your guitars is in my office now.
Oh, good.
The Frankenstein with the small banana headstock. Yeah. I was going to use it for a video today, so it's actually in the office right now.
That guitar has one of the only Kramer banana heads, maple neck, tilt back headstocks, that I've ever seen. I got that years ago, and I robbed it off of another guitar that I found, and I painted it up like the VH banana headstock that was on the Frankie.
Yeah, sure.
And I was shocked to find that, because years earlier I had been searching for a banana head maple board, and you couldn't find them. It's like Kramer never
Nobody
really made them. I mean, they made a scant few, but not much at all. It was a hard find.
Yeah, I have one here, but that's 86 hockey stick, but it's a maple board.
Yeah, so
you couldn't find one with a rounded hockey stick headstock,
right.
the banana. You could never find one, and they were not around.
Yeah, they probably made just a small handful of them over the years. Mm-hmm. So that was such a rarity to find, and now he's got it. So I'm glad it's still in the family.
That's awesome.
It's like a disease. We should call it COVID. Right?
COVID.
Yeah.
COVID 78, right?
That's right. Scott, I'm so happy that you're on screen, because I've been trying to get you to do one of these shows with me.
Dude, I'm his agent.
Since the beginning. And I appreciate you even saying hello. So
it's my
welcome,
pleasure.
Scott. So, Ty, are you done with what you wanted to say?
No, I totally took his time, because Scotty walked in and he was standing.
Do you guys have 2 more minutes for a little story? All right, so I was 11 years old, and a buddy of mine asked if I wanted to go see Van Halen. So I was like, okay. We went with his dad, and I didn't know what a Van Halen was. And I've told the story before, but it kind of makes sense now. So we go see this Van Halen thing, and I was like, oh, the show. I thought the show itself was called a Van Halen. I didn't know it was a rock concert. I didn't know, back then I didn't know much. I didn't know from rock and roll really, but I had been playing guitar. House of the Rising Sun and such like that. So we go to the show, and I remember it being amazing. The loud, great music, the red guitar, and then the women lifting their shirts. And I was like, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Is lift my shirt up so people can. So the next day I was like, yeah, I went to see a Van Halen. And then they were like, no, the band's name is Van Halen. I was like, oh, okay, I get that now. But the next summer, I went to a summer party from school, and the three records that were on continue play was the Diver Down record, Back in Black, AC/DC, and Rush 2112. And once I got the Diver Down sound, I was like, man, I that's that Van Halen thing. I still didn't really know of the band, but I love the music. I love the way it swung. And then the next year was in '84 MTV. I saw the Jump video, and at that time I knew a little bit more about guitar and rock music, and I was like, oh cool, there's that guitar. I love that guitar. It's cool. It's just something. And I hate to say it this way, but you know how maybe some women love football teams because of the helmets, or some men or people that aren't in sports, but yeah, I like that helmet. I'm gonna like that team. Well, for me, it was like guitars like that at that time. So if it was a cool looking guitar like this kind of guitar, I was like, when I saw DeMartini using it, I was in love with DeMartini because it was a Charvel guitar with a cool paint job. Yeah. The same thing. There you go. There's one right there. Black Frenchie. How could you go wrong with that? So I was in love with the Frankenstein. I didn't even know it was called Frankenstein back then. I was just like, oh, cool. Beat up Strat, red, white, black stripes. At that time, it was a Kramer headstock, and I knew about Kramer. But the next video that we were all waiting for was Panama, and I remember I was sitting on my mom's bed, because she was the only TV in the house that had MTV. And we're waiting for the world premiere video. And the next thing I see is this. And I'm like, I knew it was a different guitar. And I loved Explorers because of the headstock. And I loved Strats. And to have an Explorer headstock on a Strat, I was hooked. I always said to myself, I got to have that guitar. I need to learn more about this band. I need to learn more about this guitar player. And that's how that started for me with Van Halen. So Van Halen and Eddie Van Halen is always going to be my number one, just like most of us. And thank God for MTV, because just like Dennis, it wasn't Jimmy Page that made me fall in love with the Les Paul. It was Billy Squier and Gary Richrath.
Yeah.
Those two guys, I saw the concerts on MTV, and I was like, oh my God, that's what a Les Paul is? I got to have that. And I'm not going to show a picture of my Les Paul. I'm not going to show my Les Paul, but thank you to Gary Richrath and to Billy Squier for the love of Les Pauls and guitars. Yeah. And when I was 14, 15, 16, that's when I started learning about the rock gods and the rock guitar players that inspired me, and I loved their music. And you can go to AC/DC, you can go to every one of them, and down the line, just like everyone else. And then a little bit later on, I discovered Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton, and guys like that, and Jeff Beck. But it's always going to be the way I found out about Van Halen and Eddie Van Halen. That's going to be the love of my life, just because it happened that way.
Here's a thought. Here's a suggestion. And Ty, I apologize for interrupting.
No, you're good.
But this is really cool, because the conversation that we've had since this started, Craig's story with Kiss, and everyone just filling in, and soon as you mentioned the Gary Richrath, I'm like, yes, I forgot that. Billy Squier, yes. And it's so deep, and everyone has such an appreciation, and it's a lot of people. And this is fun, because I could chat guitars till tomorrow morning with this kind of conversation. I think the move is, and I definitely would love to come back and chat more guitars, like pick a guy or a band,
Yeah.
and then we all just pile on that for like an hour, hour and a half, and then you do it again in the next
That's a
band.
great idea.
And you could take any one of these bands that any of us mentioned, and there's so much to talk about, because as Pete's talking, I'm going, oh shit, I wanted to say it too. And I'm like, there's so much to say about that. And I think, everyone's kind of just skimming along, but we could go deep on any one of these bands and guitar players and tones and this and that, and really uncover, more thoughts and feelings about what people think and what it means to them, because I think that's what's most important. But this is great, and I would love to stay on. I do got to get on the road.
Sure.
I hate to bail out.
Well, we're going to do a part 2, I think, with this panel, as long as you guys all want to do it at some point. And I think, Adam, either maybe next month or the month after that, I think we're going to have you on at some point. Is that correct?
That is correct. We'll do a proper FUing.
Yes. Yeah. And Scott, I know you're like the most busy guy on the planet, but would you consider doing a show with us at some point?
Yeah,
Dude,
I'd love to.
only if he shares a square with me. So
You're more than welcome to. You're more than welcome to.
That'd be great.
You're out of squares. Where are you going to put them?
That's it.
I know we can do 10 squares. I'm sorry. Well, you guys can share a square.
That's my agent. Right
All
there.
right, you guys can share a square.
Guys,
but,
I want to thank you all completely. I really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed listening to everyone's stuff. Ty, I'm going to go back and listen to the end of yours as well. But it's always fascinating to me what moved people and why and where and what it meant. And it, like I said, it's not a sport; it's a feeling. It's what you got from it.
Emotion.
And Adam, thank you so much for staying as long as you have. I knew you had very limited time tonight, and I appreciate you staying as long as you did.
Yes, I will be polluting Long Island tomorrow with you guys.
And again, I'm around if you have the time. Stop by.
Cool, guys. Well, I want to thank you all again. Yep. Signing off again from my hetero life mate, Scott. We're going to hit. How do I? Oh, I see. All right, guys.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. The Irish goodbye.
The Irish goodbye.
Those of you in the chat, we have an open square. So if someone in the chat wants to jump on with us and talk about their favorite guitar player, let us know.
Absolutely. Give me your if you're on Facebook, give me your Messenger, your Facebook handle, and I will give you the invite. But
hey,
one or two guys at the most this time around, please.
You know what's making me laugh right now? You know what's stuck in my head? Dennis mentioned the song, and it's just playing over and over in my head when he was talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to give a tribute to Dennis because he brought this up when he was a kid in the car and had grabbed him. So yeah.
Love it.
That's great. And we got dinged again. This will not be on YouTube. Thanks.
No, it's all good.
No, they can't take it off. If you were playing the track, they could.
Okay. Maybe you know more than I do. Very
hey,
good.
Ty, you grew up in South Carolina, right?
Yeah, yes.
Mm-hmm. So what part?
I'm in the capital city of Columbia. So right in the middle of the state.
I know it well. Did you I mean, what were other influences? I mean, were you influenced by any of the any country music or growing up?
Yeah, man, I love a lot of the country players. The chicken picking thing is a big deal for me. I'm a hybrid picker today. I mean, even as a rock player, I've always been a hybrid picker. The middle finger's always going.
Right.
So is mine.
And
up here in New York too, for a different reason.
Yeah.
That's right.
I use the middle finger a lot.
I love it. I love it, Dennis. And but as I began to learn more about the guitar, I really went back and began discovering a lot of guys. I went back and learned that the way in which I organized the guitar, that Hendrix, the way in which Hendrix played, was really kind. I'm a cage bass player, so the way in which Hendrix played made a lot of sense to me. But that took a long time in my development to come through. And then, it's kind of like anything. The more that you learn about the guitar, the more that you want to learn about the guitar. And I went back and I started, finding guys like Eddie Cochran, Chet Atkins, and guys like that. Then Brian Setzer became like a huge influence on me. And I really, really love that. Stevie Ray Vaughan, we had Andy Alladort on here, and Andy has written this wonderful book about Stevie Ray. The Stevie Ray Vaughan, the Hendrix, the Kenny Wayne Shepherd, that lineage, the John Mayer piece of that really speaks to me these days. And then I love Satriani and I love Vai. And in the summer of 2015, I was around Guthrie Govan. And I realized that I might not know as much about the guitar as I thought maybe I knew. And because he was just, next. And when Dave and I were talking yesterday, I told Dave, I said, Guthrie's the type of player that just motivates you to expand what you think you already know. And he's so humble about the way in which he plays.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
journey.
Everything I learned, it's a journey. Everything I learned about chords, I learned from trying to play Beatles songs. Yeah. There are great chord lessons in those songs. And then if you want like a guy that can really kind of blend it all, Lukather is probably that guy. Mm-hmm. And he can dance in the jazz world. He can get through the fusion stuff, and he crushes the rock thing. Cool. It's all around player, so.
Hey, real quick. Thank you, Thomas Santiago, for the super chat. He says, great show, great stories. Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's crazy to think. Someone should have had a pencil out and just making hash marks. If I had to guess, I'm pretty confident we hit about 120 guitars.
We hit a lot.
Close to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about players today? What players today? We talked about a lot of players that impact this over the decades. Are there players today that any of you gravitate toward?
I think Stone Temple Pilots is this generation's Zeppelin. So if album to album, something about Dean DeLeo's playing. He's unbelievable. And Robert, his brother.
Hey, dude, I got news for you. Stone Temple Pilots is nearly 20 years old.
No, probably more than that at this point.
Yeah, right. They're great. They're great.
They're more pushing 30. Core came out. That was the first album. I want to say it was 90.
Was it 92 or what? Yeah, you're pretty.
91. Purple came out real close, but pound for pound, album for album. And I'm glad you said that, Dennis. You want to talk about putting together a jazz chord and putting it in a rockin' tune. Those guys reinvented that, in my opinion. And again,
I got a name for you. First of all, they only had 2 albums. The first album was like 1992. The band's name is Cry of Love, and the guitar player's name is Audley Freed. Listen to that record. It's called Brother. The first record is called Brother. They recorded it very. It's like a 3-piece band and a singer. Very little effects, if any at all. No, it's very dry record. The songs and the playing on the record is amazing, just amazing.
Text it to me, Dave.
The guitar player, yeah, I will text it to you when the show's over.
I know him well. I know him well. Saw him a lot before they made that record. They toured through here a lot. I think they're from North Carolina, actually. So they're nearby, and I saw them a lot in 1990.
Well, from there, go ahead, Dennis.
No, Ty, you brought up something interesting, because if you think today, like if we're going to get really current, since the way we listen to music is so different now, and the type of guitar players we're exposed to, and I think certainly since this pandemic has started, a guy who's really grabbed my attention is Tom Bukovac.
Oh, yeah.
Tom.
He's just a session guy, right? Brilliant, but what a great player, and that weekly or daily little homeschooling video that he puts up is brilliant. It's he reminds me of like something I said to Jim Campolongo nearly 10 years ago. Like when I said to Jim, like, Jim, you remind me of everything that's cool about playing guitar. Because it's not about, it's guitar, chord, amp, turn up. Let the person who's in front of the amplifier know it might get a little loud right here. Just want to let you know. And and that was it. And it was all emotion. And Bukovac is that. So I think he's really reminded me once again of like what's cool about playing guitar and about the fact that it's about songs at the end of the day.
Yes.
Well, if you think about it, Bukovac is probably on almost every record made in the last 15 or 20 years. If you really think about it.
Well, coming out of Nashville anyway, yeah.
Well, studio as well, because he flies all over the place to do it. But yes, mostly coming out of Nashville. He's the guitar you hear on every record.
I get really turned on. I mean, there's so many like in my wheelhouse coming out of that Sykes kind of thing. I love Slash. I love Zach. I love Richie Faulkner in Judas Priest. Love his playing. But John 5 to me is a real modern day virtuoso that can do everything. And he does it so well. I mean, he does everything so well. And I really like his solo records. In fact, it's probably the thing I appreciate most about him are those solo records. And I think he's an example of today of somebody that can just, do it all.
He was on DLR's album, Slam Dunk.
Yeah, he was.
And it's not even being a great player, right? So I mean, let's think about it right now. Who's selling out stadiums current time when before all this, right? So you take a guy like Dave Grohl, went from a blockbusting band of Nirvana, right, breaking on the scene in the '90s. This guy picks up a guitar and just knows how to write hook after hook after hook after hook.
He's a great drummer, though.
Yeah, but even guitar player like Foo Fighters, I mean, that guy knows how to write a song, man, that just makes 80,000 people sing at once, like a modern day act. It's so funny, like Dennis said before, like who turns on now? I say STP, and that's 20 plus years ago.
Yeah,
but I just saw him last year, and it's just like beyond organic. I don't know. It's insane,
Well, here's another thing to think about, and some of you may or may not like this guy, but he is probably the most recent guitar hero, and he sells out shows no matter where he plays, no matter what, and how many times he plays there. You have to give it up to Joe Bonamassa. Have to give it up to him. He's one of the most brilliant guitar players of our time right now. And I mean, regardless of his guitar collection and the millions of dollars of guitars he brings on the road with him, which is part of his show, but his playing and the way his band, Reese Winans, Anton Fig, his whole band is like ridiculous A player. He's amazing. His shows are amazing. You may not like the way he sings. You may think he sounds like Kermit the Frog when he sings, but when you watch him play,
I never really thought that. No, I mean, yeah, he's a marvelous player. Dave, you reminded me. Tommy Emmanuel.
Oh,
forget
goodness.
it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I saw him at BB King's in the city. Now that's no longer there, but Jesus. That was
nice.
Show. I got to meet him too. He was a nice guy. My God, what a brilliant player.
And I love Al Di Meola. We've not talked about Al Di Meola, and we all wish we could pick as well as he does.
Or how about Al Di Meola is just forget it, and he does it on an acoustic.
Yeah.
Insane. How about the Helicasters? All three Helicasters: John Jorgensen, Will Ray, and
That other guy.
yeah, can't remember his name, but yeah, because I have a brain fart right now.
Isn't that Jerry Donahue? Right?
Jerry Donahue.
Jerry
That's
Donahue.
it. Yes.
Mark Effects throws out Jimmy Herring. I mean, what an amazing guitar player
Yep.
Jimmy Herring is. Bozique talks about Richie Kotzen. I mean, Richie, phenomenal. Somebody
my
mentioned
God.
Nuno earlier. Mike has himself mentioned a couple. He mentioned Reb Beach and Doug Aldrich, and I love Doug Aldrich's playing. Love Reb's playing. Reb, the way Reb taps, just and
How about Vinnie Moore?
Vinny Moore.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
But now
Yeah, right?
we're talking technicians now. How about all around players? Derek Trucks and
Oh my God, Derek.
Just when you think Derek Trucks can't do anything else earth-shattering, he
Dwayne
puts out a
Betts.
new record, and he just continues. You know, you think you're good, and then you listen to Derek Trucks, and you're like, "Golly, this is just it's from another world."
The duo of Derek Trucks and Warren Haynes. How about that duo?
Oh,
Jesus
it's great. I
Christ.
love Warren Haynes' play.
Warren
Warren
Haynes-
Haynes' tone.
He never plays a bad note. Every note is like, man, you couldn't play it any better than that. It's like when he plays guitar, when he solos, it's like reading a good book. You're listening to an amazing book because everything, it's like a paragraph after paragraph that just makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like, who
I
do
like
we
the
miss
slide
at this
playing.
point? Did anyone bring up Petrucci yet?
No.
Other monster.
Someone in the chat brought up Petrucci.
Well,
yeah.
I think Adam might have been saying how he's great technically, but
How about Greg Howe?
doesn't really do
Greg
it for
Howe.
him.
Greg Howe.
Oh yeah.
I really like what he's doing now, Craig, too. I really
I
like
took 2 lessons from him
the music he's making today.
Yeah.
too.
And let's not forget our good friend Larry Mitchell.
Wow. Amazing.
Not just his fluid soloing, but how funky he plays. When he plays clean, when he just everything about him. He's like if Steve Vai, Satriani, and Prince had a kid, that would be Larry Mitchell.
He's
Someone
a
in the
nice
chat,
guy,
I wish I could remember. I'm going to scroll through the chat and name a couple of people that we haven't mentioned yet. Tom Schultz is mentioned. Anthony mentions Tom Schultz.
Yeah, because Ty, you brought up melody, and Tom
Yes.
Schultz to me is. I mean, you could sing.
Sing
Funny,
it.
Dave and I have a good friend of ours, Gary Blankenberg, who told me of my own band. He's like, Dennis, write songs. Nobody's walking out of a gig of yours humming your guitar solos.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, you got to write songs. But Tom Schultz, you know, and he always was jealous, I think, of in a way of Eddie Van Halen. Like he wanted to play like Eddie. It's like no, you know. And I think somebody told him like, no, you're, you know, do your thing. And his solos, you could sing them.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Brilliant.
How about Toy Caldwell?
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody mentioned that in the chat as well.
Toy Caldwell, they did? Yeah.
Yep. Paul mentioned Prince. Susie mentioned Django Reinhardt.
Ooh.
I mean,
2 fingers.
good Lord.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mark Effects mentions Osnoy. Osnoy was supposed to be our guest for tonight, but couldn't make it. He'll be on sometime next month. He has a new record coming out, and he wants to talk about that, which is going to be great. But yes, I agree. Osnoy is just off the beaten path of blues and jazz and bebop, but he is one of the best players I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen him live, Dave?
Yeah, he used to open for me, and when I played with Richie Kanata every Monday night at the Bitter End. He was I wouldn't even call him the opening act. He was just a band that came on before us, and I would get there early to see his whole thing, and that's how he and I became friends. You know, I'd come out and show him the coolest guitar that I was going to play that night, and he would just. I'd sit there right in front of him with my jaw open, and we would start to talk, and you know, then he invited me over to his place to hang out and just become friends. And man, is he just the way his brain thinks when his fingers work, it's insane. It's insane.
cool.
His fingers are like a spider. He can do anything. You ask him to do it, and he'll do it right there, right in front of you.
How about Tone Monsters that we haven't mentioned? How about Billy Gibbons and Leslie West?
Billy Gibbons
Oh,
is one of my
monster.
favorites.
Yep.
Billy
Monster.
Gibbons is one of my favorites. And
Vintage Gibbons, way back.
oh God. So I got a story, if I may. Back when I was doing Moving Out on Broadway, we had gotten word, the guys in the band, that Billy Gibbons was out watching the show because we knew ZZ Top was in town. I guess it was I don't know if it was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Maybe it was being, it was in New York that year. It was something like that. They were going to be there for that. Anyway, so we're on stage. Of course, the curtain's down, and I am playing every ZZ Top lick I know because I know they can hear us in the house. I'm playing everything, and we're all jamming. The show ends, and it turns out it's not Billy, but it's Dusty. And Dusty comes backstage with his wife, then wife. I assume they're still married. I don't know, Charlie. This has to be in 2004, maybe. I don't know, something like that.
But you knew they were there, or you knew at the time?
We knew that. I
Okay.
knew. See, I had heard that it was Billy Gibbons, so I was freaking out. I mean, he's one of my favorites, and but it was Dusty, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. He came down to the dressing room after the show and chatted with us, and then walked over with us to the to a bar called McHale's that we
That's right.
called the office. We called it the office. I mean, it's been there forever, and he hung out with us. And he and his wife were the sweetest people. They were both such nice people, and he told us stories. And I think I had my V with me at the time. I had a Carina V. And I took it out. He's like, hey, man, I had a bass. He was just like a regular, normal guy. He wasn't pulling anything with us, any kind of attitude at all. He was really the genuine article.
Did he say anything about you playing all the songs?
Yeah, he said, oh, listen, he told me, he turned to his wife and said, oh, hey, they're playing Billy's tunes. They're playing some of Billy's tunes, which I thought was, that was cool.
Let me ask you a question, though. Let me ask you a question. Since you at the time you thought Gibbons was in the audience, when you were playing his licks, were you thinking of him? And oh my God, he's watching. I hope I nail this.
No, I was just too excited. I mean, he couldn't see us, and they could only kind of hear us because my amps were in ISO boxes underneath the stage, but they were loud. So I knew that
Craig,
what?
Go ahead.
No, I'm just wailing away, having the ball, and and now the drummer, we're all kind of jamming on whatever I could come up with,
So Craig, when this whole coronavirus thing is over and Dennis is actually gigging again, you need to come down here with me and go to see him play because Dennis, I don't know if you've ever heard him play, but he doesn't fuck up. He just doesn't screw up. He and when he plays, I'm not saying this because you're my buddy. I'm saying this because I wish I played like you. When he plays, he sounds like the guy he's playing with. Everything the tone, the fingering, everything. It's some sort of delay going on.
Hey, what is that about?
Was
I
that?
don't know.
Do I get that right? Or he was always in your apartment during the...
Yes, he lived here. He lived here
Yeah.
for
That's him. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I heard about you, and I've heard you noodling around in the background. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I can tell you got it. Sure.
Yeah.
Craig, I love that. I love that Billy Gibbons tone on Brown Sugar. Just
my
that
God.
perfect left paw. I mean, to me, that's
He played with a
just
peso.
beautiful.
He used
Yeah.
a peso.
Yeah.
And but to me, he didn't really to me, Billy Gibbons arrived at his tone by Tres Hombres.
Man.
That whole record, that LaGrange, all the songs on the record, that kind of it got hairier,
Mhm.
got some more, definitely got some more hair around the edges, and from then on, I mean, I've got all of their records up through
Beer drinkers.
Yeah,
Beer drinkers.
I've got all of his records up through. I think I've got after. No, I've got nearly all of their records.
Eddie's a big Gibbons fan. Actually, they're friends.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Van Halen covered Beer drinkers.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and they did a really good job of it.
Yeah, you do.
back in '83. Yeah,
That's right.
A couple of other players mentioned in the chat: Tom Quayle, Greg Koch. Thank you, Deja Voodoo. Those are incredible players. Jeff Beck getting a lot of love here.
Alan Collins.
Joe Holmes. A shout out to Joe Holmes. Man, what a great guitar player that guy is. Bonnie Raitt. Wayne Curie. I was at that show and saw Jeff Beck in Charlotte 2 years ago. Jennifer Batten. Great.
Hey,
awesome.
Ty, what about popped into my head, Terry Kath.
Oh man.
Chicago. Oh well. I mean, I know.
Okay, that's a name I don't know. I guess I should know.
Didn't Hendrix say that Terry Kath was his favorite guitar player?
Oh, he said Terry Kath is the best guitar player he's ever seen. Yeah. He'd ever seen.
Yeah,
he's much better than him. Terry Kath was just
amazing.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Really.
Real quick, I just want to give a shout out to one of the sponsors, one of our sponsors on Nez Sez, and he was here already. If you're looking to get up.
Lost your kid.
Sorry about that. Where am I?
You're there.
I'm here. Okay. If you want to get upgrades for your locking tremolo, such as these blue titanium parts, go see Adam at fu-tone.com. And I got to tell you, not only does this stuff look good, but it actually makes your guitar sound really good. Get the good titanium parts.
Yep, whatever you do. You know what? I should have told, because I'm over at Dave's house yesterday or a couple of days ago, and he shows me those parts before he put them on the guitar. And I'm sitting on this couch, and one of the screws drops out of the mail pouch into the couch.
Oh man!
And I saw it go. I was like, Jesus, this is gonna be. I think something fell. It took us a minute to find it. And what I wanted to say, now that Adam's not here, I wanted to say to him, dude, can you put all the screws in one pouch instead of one screw?
Well, you know why he does that, right? Because if they rub against each other, they'll scratch.
Oh, it makes sense.
And the color comes off. Believe it or not, it's only iodized.
But literally, I saw. It was slippery. It was like shoop into the couch. What are you gonna do?
They come in these little individual, nickel bags back in the 80s. Remember the nickel bags?
Certainly do.
We have an FU Tone artist here with us tonight, sitting up on the top row there, Dave.
Yes, Pete Caruch is a bona fide. He's just a bona fide. No, he's a.
I'm a boner.
Bona fide FU-tone artist.
Thank you.
Which is really cool. Really cool. What a great company.
I feel like
great company.
Before all this crap hit the fan, I feel like I was riding Dennis's coattails all around town. Right? Dennis, you're in Wonder Stories, right?
No, I'm not in Wonder. I'm in the Mystic. I played the Mystic.
Oh, the Mystic. That's it. I apologize. No. And because every time Dennis was playing like KJ's the week after I was playing.
Right.
Yeah. And maybe the Warehouse too. You guys played there. I think I was right behind you over there. Kevin's a good guy, man. He's got some nice venues. Yeah. I like KJ's better. I mean, I don't know about you, but
well, it's home base. It's like home base. The Warehouse is too big and too spread out.
No, but it's the best stage that I ever had. The best mix on a stage. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't for that little stage, whoever's running sound or whatever they use, and I can hear myself. And I struggled a little bit at the Warehouse, but again, like you said, Dave, it's big, and you
can't get enough people in there to soak up the sound. You just can't, no matter how big you are.
So Dave, I got to ask you, wasn't there something else you wanted to chat about?
Well, I was hoping that I don't know, and I don't want to put Ty on the spot because I didn't really talk to him about it. But I was hoping that he'd maybe do a little bit of a review on that Nobles pedal that I gave him.
Yeah, with a little notice, I can do that, Dave. I don't even have the pedal here.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I've been so busy, and with my thumb, I just neglected to ask you.
Yeah, but I'd be happy to do that.
Dennis, you have a few guitars that you haven't shown us from your video with us. Would you like to show some stuff?
Really? Okay. I mean,
real quick, we can continue our chat, but I know that you have a little bit more to show us than you had when.
I mean,
you
if
Go
you
get some
guys want
guitars,
it,
man. Yeah, go get them.
Is it show and tell time? I didn't know we were.
We can do
this.
show and tell. We can do a little bit of show and tell, but I want to keep up with what we were doing because, man, this is just, it's so interesting. We have 49 people watching us right this second, and the chat is flying. Everyone is talking about this stuff in the chat. It's really a great time here tonight.
Bruce is mentioning Roy Buchanan. What a great guitar player. What
Yes.
a great guitar player.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey, Dave.
Yes.
Hey, here's this for you, buddy. Wait. I forgot. Who finished it?
Next time.
No, someone was noodling. I think that was Dennis. It was me.
That was me. Yeah. Don't that album. Don't say no. What a great record.
Every song.
Whoa.
Every song. It's like a perfect album side on both sides of the album.
That's why I think, like, you know, if you're talking about favorite players, it is really hard because if you're a music fan, you're a guitar player and you're a fan of music, you're pulling stuff, you're pulling inspiration from so many different areas, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, I love Rage Against the Machine.
Mm-hmm.
He's
what an incredible band.
That's right. And
What a
Tom
great-
Morello, he's an inspirational guitar player. He doesn't even play a note. It's, you know, what he does play is amazing.
Yeah.
What he does with a guitar, nobody else does.
Yeah. And
It's a pioneer.
Yeah, there's so many different, you know, people are chiming in with different players, and we can keep going on and on about it. I mean, because it's about music, really. At the end of the day, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you can say who your preference can't say who's the best. Maybe they're the best at what they do, or maybe that's who I prefer to listen to. They're my favorite. Doesn't have to be yours.
Right.
But it's also like I had a period of time. I think it was back in the early 2000s. I went through the Kiss phase. You know, like I bought the first few Kiss albums and just got into them, you know, just to check out the songs and the vibe. It was more about the vibe, you know, and really appreciated it. I can remember when Destroyer, that album came out in '76, I think it was 77, something like that. I can remember living in West Islip, and one of my friends at the time had the album and brought it over, and you know the city that's on fire, all that shit, and I just was like, ooh, this is scary, you know. Now it's kind of silly, it seems kind of goofy, but as a kid, it was really sort of it stood
amazing.
out. It wasn't until later on, you know.
Yeah. Headstock Harm says Andy Timmons. Now, Andy Timmons is one of my favorite guitar players on the planet, and also he's an alumni on the show, or at least with me anyway. Hopefully, we'll be able to get him back on soon. He's a sweetheart of a guy, and man, if you can, when everything resumes, go watch Andy Timmons play. He's
Nobody has mentioned Steve Stevens yet.
Oh, another one.
Yeah, man.
Another one.
Yeah. I've seen Steve Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
There's a video on YouTube where he explains the solo in Rebel Yell.
Yeah.
And which is something that's always,
The machine gun.
yeah, how they got that.
Yeah, well, it's a toy. It's actually a toy gun that he puts up to his pickup.
Right.
Larry Mitchell gets that with whatever fractal unit, or actually with every pedal board or every incarnation of his rig he's been able to get a ray gun sound, which is amazing. And then Steve Stevens just does it with a toy.
I got a name for a guitar player. May stir some shit up. Ted Nugent.
Oh yeah.
Nugent.
Yeah, Ted's
Ted
great.
and Ted Cities.
Yeah,
Oh,
Dennis and my friend Greg Smith, who is also an alumni from here, is
love
Ted's
Ted.
bass player.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I love Ted. Love him.
Yeah.
He makes your ears bleed, that's for sure.
Well, I
Sure
mean,
does.
he's whatever. I don't want to talk about anything controversial with him, but his guitar playing and the songs they're just great. He's just one
They're
of those
fantastic.
great guitar players,
Joe.
great musician.
Swagger.
Yeah,
Swagger.
yeah.
And what a
Put
great
on a great show
performer.
too.
Oh,
Great,
forget
Great
it.
performer.
hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hyperactive.
Yeah, that's
And
a good
the-
thing though on stage. Dennis, what you got there?
Oh, I gotta say, how about this too? Like you talk about influential. I saw Dick Dale.
Oh man, I love surf guitar. I love that.
I saw him play at the Wetlands in New York City. Jesus, it was back in the '90s. I think at the time he was a 61-year-old, and I have never heard a louder guitar player, I think, in my life. He was the loudest 61-year-old. He might have been older than that, but he had this rat tail, gray hair, this rat tail. And I walked in, it was in the 90s, because I walked in with my then wife and a buddy of mine, and I had earplugs in the entire show. I took them out. It was just a trio. I took one earplug out for a moment. It was like, ah! It was unbelievably loud, but amazing, you know.
I love surf guitar. I love the way that they use echo.
Yeah.
I love how you were talking about boogie woogie earlier. I love those progressions. I mean, they just that 1-5-6 kind of thing that happens in surf music. I mean I love that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
Hey, Dave, we needed earplugs when we saw Dwayne Betts, huh?
Yep, that was a loud concert. That was
my
in a
God.
very, very small venue.
Well, that was Partners, right? Partners?
Yeah.
Oh man, there was supposed to be 50-watt heads. They sounded like 1,050. They were so loud. Who was the other guitar player? Another excellent player. He played with Dickie and Dickie's band, Great Southern.
Andy Eldor.
Thank you.
He's
great.
I don't remember his name.
Yeah, Andy Eldor.
How about Jack Pearson?
Jack Pearson.
Oh,
forget
God,
it.
what
Probably,
great slide.
although he's the least known Allman Brother, he is probably the best guitar player in the Allman Brothers ever.
Just
He
unreal.
was amazing, and he
Yeah.
played Strats.
And now he plays Squires.
Oh, does he?
Only plays a Squire guitar just to
I
prove
got
that
one.
you can play a crappy guitar and make it sound amazing.
Oh yeah.
How about Elvin Bishop?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You guys know Elvin Bishop?
Sure
Oh,
do.
absolutely. Around and fell in love.
Yeah.
I mean,
how could you not know that?
Well,
Yeah.
that's the radio stuff. I'm talking deep cuts, man.
we were talking about Blue Eyed Soul earlier, and somebody mentioned we were referencing a Blue Eyed Soul singer a little while ago, and we can't forget Daryl Hall, right? I mean, talk about a soul singer. I mean, that guy, and he can still do it today.
Daryl Hall is one of my favorite singers on the planet.
I live right by
always will
Daryl's place.
be. Oh, no
live
kidding.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm 10 minutes away,
That's
Cool.
cool. Yeah. That's
Very.
Cool.
even though he's closing it.
Wow.
It's too bad.
That's a whole other
You
story.
guys think Springsteen can play?
What's
I
that?
think he can write a song.
He can
for
definitely
sure.
write a song, and you know what? He plays the hell out of a Telecaster.
I seen him live at Giant Stadium, man. 3.5 hours plus, no problem. No problem.
Yeah.
That's
Good
amazing.
stuff. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. There are
I could be here all night.
so many guitar players, and guitar players that'll never even get mentioned because there's so many out there. You can't mention them all. But
Well, I think it's also guys too. Like they're probably guys that are like for me personally, Tommy Burns, Billy's guitar player, Billy Joel's current guitar player. I mean, he's a friend of mine for a long time, but he influenced me just in terms of because he had the same kind of intensity that that I had. Like he and I were similar or are similar, and just his attitude, his approach to things. From even just a musical head was influenced me, and even you can talk about Billy Joel's guitar players. David Brown,
Great player.
was
Yeah,
a fantastic
amazing.
player.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I got another one that you guys probably haven't thought about in 25, 30 years. Keith Scott.
Oh, Brian
Yeah.
Adams, yeah.
Amazing player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
A
guys
great
know Tommy
tone.
Crane?
I'm sorry?
You guys know Tommy Crane?
No.
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 Charlie Daniels.
Oh.
Charlie Daniels.
And Charlie Daniels himself. How about him?
Great guitar player and fiddle player.
Yeah.
He was. Yeah. God rest his soul.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda, Keith Scott's a fellow Canadian, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All kinds of all kinds of good guitar players coming out of Canada. I mean, Pete Thorne, he's like another newer guy. And you,
we haven't even touched. We haven't
YouTuber.
even touched internet guitar players
We
yet.
have not. We have not
my
talked
God.
about YouTube guitar players, and they're all ridiculous. A great friend of ours, Cameron Brown. Oh my God! Or Cameron Cooper. Oh my God! Thomas McRocklin. Holy crap! A bunch of guys, just ridiculous
Guys,
guitar
girls
players.
too, man.
Girls, yes,
Yeah.
girls too.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Nita Strauss either.
No, well, she's all
okay.
right. She's all right.
Yeah, she's
She's doing much better than we are.
yeah. If you look like she did.
Well,
Terry Himes pulling out Phil Kagi. That's awesome.
oh
Oh,
yeah.
Phil Kagi. Yeah. Wow.
RJ Ronquillo from Ben. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, we haven't
Who's
even
the-
touched the internet yet.
Who's the internet kid? The real fat black kid. He plays the blues.
Oh, Kingfish. He's not an
Yeah,
internet.
oh.
He's not an internet kid. He's bona fide blues man.
That dude,
Kingfish is ridiculous.
ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Craig, have you listened to Marcus King?
No, sir. Should I?
Yes, Marcus King. He player and a singer. And if you're into the Almonds, you're gonna love him. Somebody in the chat mentioned Blackberry Smoke earlier.
Yeah.
I love that
Check
band.
it out. I love
You
getting
like-
turned on to new stuff.
Speaking of another king, probably one of my favorite modern blues players is a guy named Guy King.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guitar player and a singer, songwriter. Jesus, he's a great singer. And as a player, man, I mean, I saw him on stage. It was some internet, like a YouTube video, someplace in Indiana, Evansville, Indiana, on stage with Josh Smith and Greg Koch.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up and did this tune, and he just strapped on, I guess the bar owner's guitar. It was a Les Paul. And, as great as Josh Smith and Greg Koch are, and they are, this guy just spoke to me, and it was
Stands
just so damn tasty.
Yeah.
And he plays with his thumb.
That's pretty amazing.
Cool.
So another newish cat that's just getting recognition. He's been out for quite a while. Kirk Fletcher.
Kirk Fletcher, yes,
Now,
great.
Kirk Fletcher, you may know him when he played with Bonamassa at Red Rocks when they were doing the Three Kings tour. He was in that band for the whole Three Kings tour. He played with the Fabulous Thunderbirds. He played with a couple of other well-known blues artists. He is probably the smoothest, well-versed guitar player of today as well. And another one which I will agree with. Hang on, I just lost it here. It was on here. 1 second. Tim Seymour says Neil Giraldo.
Yeah,
Pat
Great
Benatar.
guitar player.
Not only was he a great guitar player, had the best parts for all of her songs, but when you saw them live, he had the coolest guitars of the time. Every time I would see him with a BC Rich Super Eagle, or a red Telecaster Custom with a Bigsby on it, all his guitars, he had the coolest blue Strat. At the time, I didn't know what year it was. I just knew it was the coolest. Every guitar he used was like the coolest guitar you'd ever seen.
He was also a great producer. I mean,
Yeah.
he was one of my. If you might be a cool show idea for shows, like if you can name like top 5 favorite guitar solos. Like in things that still make the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And certainly Neil Giraldo. I think it's I can't remember the name of that song.
Yeah.
It's not Fire and Ice. It's not Shadows in the Night. It's one of the songs from that era, and his guitar solo is just note perfect in every way, and it's still to this day. It's still great. Today grabs me. I mean, what a great player.
How about the end of that guitar solo when he turns the delay on? Do-do-do! And yeah. I mean, just everything is perfect on that. Thank you, MTV, for us to be able to see that.
I think Hotel California's got probably one of the best solos in it combined
Oh, yeah.
with Joe
absolutely.
Walsh.
One of the best solos ever written.
Another brick in the wall.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
No
we
one
didn't
even
talk
mentioned
about
him.
We didn't
Gilmore.
even talk about Gilmore at all.
No one mentioned Gilmore.
Oh, man.
And I only just found out recently that was done on a Les Paul, P90 Les Paul. It was not a
No.
Stratocaster.
No
Really?
kidding.
Nope, it was a gold top Les Paul.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, what? Really? Come on.
Dennis, you were humming "Treat Me Right" by Pat Benatar.
Right.
Yeah.
Dennis, you know David Bromberg?
Yeah.
Anybody know David Bromberg?
Sure.
Yeah.
He plays like 40 instruments.
Yeah.
It's
Another
crazy.
sick player.
Yeah.
Crazy.
George Thorogood.
Oh,
I was
my
never
God.
a fan. I was
Loved
never a
it.
fan of George.
I
Loved
love
it.
George.
You know,
I'm surprised Dave you didn't like George.
I just don't. There's something that rubs me wrong about his guitar playing. I'm sorry. Forgive me,
you don't
everybody.
you don't like the open string stuff?
I do like open string stuff, but I think a lot of his stuff is not from the heart. There's something about it that doesn't sway me.
It's booze bar music.
That's probably what it is.
I come in last night about it.
It just doesn't do it for me. But I can't. He's doing something good, man. Everyone knows him. Everyone knows him. Everyone enjoys his music.
Yeah.
You know what? I like his music. I don't like the guitar playing. That's just something about it.
Marcus King's getting a lot of love in the chat from Tom and Guitar Man 45 and Bozique. I mean, we've got an enlightened audience here. I think Marcus King is one of the coolest things that's happened to music in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I saw, every so often you see people that share videos on Facebook, and someone shared recently, it was Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jeff Healey on like Leno.
Yeah.
And they were just going back and forth, complimenting each other. And there was one part where Jeff got so into it, he jumped out of the chair.
I saw that. In fact,
and
I saw that
he
on
was
YouTube.
standing up, and he's just ripping. He still has the guitar in his lap, and I mean, it's you want to talk about a guy who, I mean, how the hell did he get those tones, with his thumb, across like just playing on his lap like that? I mean, there's a guy that you just looked at him and holy Jesus, should we be thinking about, holding the neck differently?
Right.
Yeah.
But that video, just something about it. And speaking about Stevie Ray, another video, when you're on YouTube, you click a video, then you see like a history of, different things from that guy. And there was another one where, again, it was Stevie Ray on some talk show. It might have been Letterman or something. It was called the smoothest exchange ever. He popped the string and he was singing, it didn't miss a beat. His roadie comes, he just grabs it, then he just comes right back into the riff. Like he was in the pocket the whole time switching guitar. I'm like, really? Like you didn't even fall out of the pocket, right? You're just still in there, no problem, and singing. Wow. Did we even bring up Stevie tonight?
No, we didn't. But you know what? He's another pioneer. Just another pioneer of a guitar player.
Couldn't stand the weather. It was sick to him.
Since you, myself, and Dennis are Long Islanders, and not bring up Steve Ray Vaughan, that's just a travesty. I'm sorry. Because every guitar player in Long Island wants to sound like Steve Ray Vaughan.
I got to tell you, though, I love Stevie Ray. I also love his brother.
Oh, Jimmy Vaughan.
Man.
He's the king. He's
such a traditional kind of player. Very, very different. But I agree, Dennis. I love him. And we haven't. Yeah. Dole Bramhall too.
Doyle, yeah. Jeez.
I mean,
and he plays the guitar upside down and backwards. And now that we're talking about him, how about Eric Gales?
Yeah, Eric Gales. Just somebody in the chat just mentioned Eric Gales a moment ago. Let me give credit to that person there. Jeff Healey getting all kind of love. Charlie S. brought up Eric Gales.
There's also if you watch Joey Landreth?
Yeah. Sure.
He's a slide guy. I mean, he's great.
Sonny Landreth.
You think it's Sonny Landreth? I'm thinking Joey. He's got the He's got a band with his brothers. I see him on the Pedal Show. That's where I first found him. Great singer.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's his name.
You guys like pedal steel? Bobby
Sure.
Black?
Bobby Black.
I don't know who Bobby Black is. Who's the guy? How about Vince Gill and the steel player that plays with Vince?
Paul Franklin. Paul Franklin is a Nashville legend.
Did we talk about Jerry Douglas?
Nope.
We'll be here all night.
No,
Yeah.
we're not going to be here all night because I'm about to wind this down very quickly.
Yeah, me too.
Guys, can I ask you all to be on a part 2 at some point?
Yeah, sure.
We can keep going and we can branch out onto other things. I'm sorry. It's 10 o'clock. It's after 10. I want to thank Adam Reaver. I want to thank Scott Smith. I want to thank Craig from CHS Custom Guitars. I want to thank Pete, my buddy Pete, beautiful cat. My friend Dennis, my best friend in the world. I want to thank Ty for doing this with me week after week after week. And I also want to just say one quick thing. Thank you to our sponsors, Jody Head Straps, Adam Reaver at FU-Tone, Rob Welch at Tessie Switch. Thank you all for loving this channel and for helping us out and for doing great things and just for who you are and what you are. Thank you to everyone in the chat for being here week after week.
Our moderators.
Our moderators, yes. Thank you to Terry 3Gs. Thank you to Laz. Thank you to my beautiful wife-to-be, Desiree. And thank you to Ben Coombs.
Ben Coombs.
Ben.
Canucks with guitars. Hey.
And Dave, thanks for having me. Thank you.
Dave, thank you. Guys, thank you both.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure.
Thanks,
we love
Tom. Thanks, Dave.
we love being able to do this. We love being able to do this because, as you know, we usually have a guest, some sort of guest every week, and I absolutely love when we can sit down with our peers and our friends and talk like this. It is so much fun. Thank you so much.
A lot of fun.
Craig. Go get it.
Hey, Dave, can you do me a favor, man? Can you just text that to me? Because I'll forget. I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, I will. I'll get it from Dennis and text you. But as we say goodnight to everyone, just stay on here for a couple minutes after the show. We want to say goodbye after the show and just have a little talk. But I want to, since I didn't do this at the beginning of the show, I want to do this, and everyone will see you next Thursday.
Hey everyone, this is Steve Lynch, formerly of Autograph, now with my new project, Blue Neptune. Check out David and Ty at 8 o'clock on Thursday nights on the Nez Sez show. You got to check this out, okay? And it's on the David Nez Sez YouTube channel, 8 p.m. Thursday nights. All right, cheers everybody, see you then.